Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere. Tags, what's up, man?
Nothing, dude. It was a good day to be me because I actually got the first golf lesson of my entire life. And I mean, I've been attempting to play golf for a couple of years. I had back surgery, so I had to take a couple of years off because I legitimately couldn't swing a golf club without it hurting. But I had my first golf lesson today, and I turned my slice into a pretty straight shot, and I gained about like 50 yards on my 8-iron, which is kind of insane. So I'm pretty psyched about that, man. I can't wait to get on a golf course and start working on some of the things I learned.
You know, and the main reason that's insane is because I've played golf with Tags. And Tags, he's like, okay, I'm going to try to hit this ball soft because sometimes I launch it over the green. And he goes up there with his putter. And he drives the ball 5,000 yards and he's like, oh man, it went in the woods. How did that happen? It barely swung.
Yeah, that's basically what happened all the time is that's the first thing the trainer asked me. He's like, so what, how would you describe your golf game? And I said, inconsistent. That's basically how I describe it. And usually to the right. So, fixing that and, it's really fun.
That's nice.
Mean, that's the one thing I do in the off season that it literally takes my mind away from football for a moment. And, all you think about is hitting a golf shot. So it's a lot of fun for me.
So we've got a fun show planned today. You all have been asking when it's going to arrive and it is here for you. Draft Wizard. I'm pumped too because I just did a couple dozen this morning. I was all over it, prepping a little bit for this episode. And our developers added some support for Dynasty, rookies, startup leagues, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of fun. And to celebrate, we're going to do a Dynasty mock draft for today's podcast, a startup league. And to show you how it works, help you prepare you for your big league. So Tags, what do you think, man? Do you have any chance to beat me?
I said before the show, I told Bobby, I said, if I don't beat you, this thing's broken. So we need to make sure that I win on this episode. No, but in reality, the Draft Wizard is the ideal thing because and I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I know we have new listeners all the time. So I tell people is that doing mock drafts, what it does is it allows you to work different ways with roster construction. You could work it out and say, you know what, I'll take a workhorse running back early and then take wide receiver. You could do all these different combinations because you might get to the end of the draft and be like, wow, I really would have changed that. And you go back and you try it the other way. And it's going to prepare you for all different sorts of situations in your regular drafts. So as much as people might mock drafts, saying that they're kind of useless because it's a mindless exercise, when you're doing it on the Draft Wizard, you're doing it against experts. You could do it against ADP. You could change whatever setting you want. And again, today we're doing a Dynasty league, a startup Dynasty. And I've had a lot of followers on Twitter recently saying, you know what, I've been following the podcast and I'm really interested in getting interested in a Dynasty league. So they're asking me about values and things like that. So this is the ideal place for you to start.
It's I don't understand why people would think mock drafts don't work. If you want to get better at golf, what do? You practice.
You practice, yes.
Right? I mean, if you want to get better at fantasy football, you practice. This is the way to practice. You nail the draft, you win your league. That's really all it comes down to. And, Tags is acting confident and everything, but we just had our expert Dynasty league with a bunch of real good experts across the industry. And, Tags is just really jealous and nervous because I somehow got Calvin Ridley at number 9 and DJ Moore at number 13. So Tags is just over there shaking in his boots.
I'm not worried about the DJ Moore thing. Now, I will say this. So it was kind of funny. So I had the 4th pick in this draft, and the 4th pick I took Sony Michel. Before the draft, I was legitimately trying to move up to the 1.6 to 1.8 range to take Calvin Ridley. But nobody was biting, and I would have had to overpay a lot because, as you mentioned, it's an analyst league from all these guys from Fantasy Pros, the analysts that rank on there. And so it's hard to get a really good value, and they wanted me to overpay for that pick. But I just couldn't do it. I knew Bobby was going to take him, and it was sad, but I got Bobby back later.
Yeah, you definitely did. You took 3 guys that I wanted, of course. Tags and I have very similar opinions. We like to get at each other, but we think very similarly. And a lot of the stuff he convinces me of, I convince him of a few things. And, so it's a lot of fun to do it with all those experts and to see, really what the experts think about everybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what's funny is because we had the podcast with Matt Harmon where we talked about rookie wide receivers and how we got to that point in the draft where it was, it was James Washington, it was Anthony Miller, Michael Gallup, and these guys were on the board. And I got to that point where it was like, oh my God, which one am I going to choose? And I ultimately went with Anthony Miller at 14, or was it 16? And then all of a sudden at 2-9, he's still on the board, and Bobby's about to get on. James Washington is still on the board.
Pumped.
So I'm like, oh my God. So I messaged Pat Fitzmaurice, who's part of this league. Basically, I offered him D.D. Westbrook and a 4th round pick to move into that 2-9 spot. And, basically, so I got James Washington for D.D. Westbrook in my 4th round pick. So I was stoked about that, and Bobby was, let's just say, not happy.
I knew exactly what was happening. Tags posted on the board, hey, Pat, do you want to trade out of this pick? I'm like, Pat, don't do it. I actually put it on the board in like full caps. Don't do it. He's going to take my guy. And Pat's like, that's all right. I'll give you some ammo for the podcast. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was a great draft. I definitely enjoyed it. It was my first rookie draft of the year. Honestly, like for all the Dynasty leagues that I'm in, it was the first one I had, and I have another one today. I have another one, tomorrow. And so they're starting to fly in now. I'm actually in the middle of a slow one right now.
We've had a lot of fun with the feedback from the last show, and oddly, like most of it was about our food takes, right? We ended up having a Fantasy Pros team discussion about pizza, and I wanted to invite all of you into it. So we're going to do the draft here in just a second, but we actually had a listener mailbag question on the baseball podcast about a month ago. That's the podcast that I host, Fantasy Pros Baseball Podcast, if you haven't heard it and you're a fantasy baseball guy or want to get into fantasy baseball. So here's the question. How long would you be willing to let pizza sit out and still eat it? Like, what is safe? And Tags has a rather disgusting answer, so I'll just let him take it away.
So hold on. So I am not a prissy individual. I am not high maintenance. None of that stuff. Like, legitimately, I'm as pretty much as easy as they come.
Doesn't care if he gets diarrhea or anything. He doesn't care.
No. So the conversation came up, how long are you okay with pizza being out and still eating it? And I said, if you get pizza, you order pizza for dinner or whatever, and then you leave it out overnight, and you want to get up in the morning or for lunch the next day, and if you want to eat it, I am more than okay with that. And Bobby said it was disgusting.
Every time I hear it, it makes me cringe.
That is crazy to me, because I think pizza, like, I'm not saying it tastes better than when it's like hot and fresh and stuff, but it's like next best thing. I don't even heat it up sometimes, where it's just like, it's good room temperature. And there's like so many varying opinions on this. And Bobby, some people called you out on that whole butter pizza thing. My wife cringed. Like, that's exactly what she did when I told her about the idea.
Well, she hasn't tried it yet. She can't knock it.
She thinks you're trolling me. She thinks that there's no way that you've actually done that there's no way that nobody would just cover their pizza in butter.
I was trolling you about the extent. Like, I was acting like you were crazy. Like, a lot of my friends do it. I don't know where that came from, but one of my friends talked me into it. I tried it, and I'm never going back. It is delicious.
God, that sounds awful. Like, no, pizza is so good as is. Like, but that's basically, let us know on Twitter what you guys think about pizza. And Bobby's rule is 2 hours. Bobby says,
well, hold on. No, I want to say my take here, because it's a little bit extensive. Like, I want to give all the details, then you can decide if you want to judge me. So, if I'm at home, I've got full control over the pizza box, right? I get the pizza for my boys. I bring pizza to my wife because she's holding a baby. And I'll eat it if it's left there for like 4 hours. It never is. I mean, I don't think it would probably hurt my stomach. More likely though, I'm just going to stick it in glass Tupperware after like 10 minutes. I don't really mess around. The more important question, in my opinion, somebody asked this on Twitter, is what do you do at some kind of social gathering where there's pizza? And the correct answer is really simple. Okay. I remember back in high school, I'd eat pizza every single day and like slather in hot sauce. That was before I knew about the butter thing. So I've grown up from the hot sauce. My friends and I, we virtually like raced all around the school to be the first in line so we could get the biggest piece of pizza. And I always won, of course, because I'm, really fast and pizza's super important to me. But what is important here is in social gatherings, you have to do the same thing. You have to race. No woman and especially no child is going to become between me and the front of the line. And here's why. I was out in public earlier this week. I had to take my 4-year-old to wash his hands. Okay. So I went to the bathroom, and just in the minute we were in there, I saw 2 grown men exit their stall and just rinse their hands for like 2 seconds, then leave. What is that? Don't be that person. That is so ridiculous. You've got poop on your hands. So my conclusion, obviously, and it might as well be yours as well, is that there are people, especially kids, who suck at washing their hands and have poop all over their fingers. Then they're going to go grab 2 pieces of pizza, tear one off. I'm not eating the poop pizza. I'm getting in line first and playing it safe. Tags, you can eat poop if you want. That's not my thing.
I'm not eating poop pizza. I give up, man. Like, and to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever had pizza in a park. Like, that's not like a picnic food for me. So my pizza is usually consumed indoors, which definitely factors into that. And now, if it was outdoors, I probably would have different. Like, I would know who I'm eating around. Oh, wait, hold on. And this is going to bring up a totally different topic, and I don't want to stick on it too long because we have to talk football. But I'm a weird person when it comes to eating at other people's house, like their homemade food, because I don't know how it's been prepared. I'm not like a germaphobe, but at the same time, it's like
there might be like onions in there or something.
Well, I'm like a very picky eater, like, and I'm not shy about that. I understand that I am. I eat like a third grader.
All good fantasy analysts are picky eaters. I think so at least.
But am I weird? Like,
because you and I are, so everyone else must be.
But if you go, like, let's say you go over to a friend's house and, like when I was younger, my friend's parents, she was a great cook, but still I worried, like, she'd make like steak tacos and I would be worried about eating those steak tacos just because I don't know how they were prepared. I don't know what happened in between the time they went from the store to my mouth. So I was always weirded out by that. So, I mean, I don't know if I was the only one, and I still feel that way a little bit when I go to like family parties. I'm like, wait, was this catered in? Because I'll trust catered food for whatever reason, but homemade food is just weird for me.
I've worked in a restaurant, man. You shouldn't. And I'm sorry, I'm probably ruining food for everybody, but people are so ridiculous. It made me, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it much longer. Let's do the draft here, Tags. And, if you want to go to Draft Wizard, here's what you do. Go to fantasypros.com. It's on the front page. It's at the very top. We've got a banner for it because we just released it. So I'm going to click on that right now. NFL Draft Wizard. And Tags, why don't you tell them about the settings we've got going on?
All right. So we're obviously doing, as we mentioned, a dynasty startup draft where it's going to be rookies and veterans all in the same. This is a startup draft. We're treating it as if we were walking into a league. It's a 12-team league. We're going to randomize our draft position. We have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex spots, which I believe is paramount in leagues. Like, that should be a very high importance.
I'd say 3.
I like 3. The deeper the better for me. And then bench spots, we have 5. So we're not drafting a kicker. We're not drafting a defense. Bobby and I are on the same page here, and we're going to see who can get the better grade as we go through. They're going to be different drafts, and they vary because our draft wizard doesn't give you the same draft every time. It'll vary the draft picks by, different experts.
I want to make you an offer here, Tags, because I want to make this even for you. Right now I have it selected as snake, but if you want, we can just make it a straight draft where you've got the number 1 pick, I've got the number 12 pick, and you get the number 1 pick every round. Do you want to do that?
No, I don't want the number 1 pick, honestly. Like, I prefer to be in the middle. I like seeing where runs are at the positions so I can, like, feel out my team.
Okay, so we're going 12 teams here, right?
Yep.
All right, let's randomize draft order.
All right. I got 5th.
You got 5th, I got 7th. I'm okay with either of those. I don't feel like you have a big advantage. So no excuses unless you get really lucky with, like, Le'Veon Bell dropping to the 20th round for you like usual.
That's not happening. Actually, Le'Veon Bell in my thing here, he actually did drop to my number 5 pick. But I'm not going to pick him because what I did for this, I'm trying this differently. So I have my like, I usually can go by and I could look at the players and I could judge how I feel about it. But what I did is I went to, if you're on Twitter, I have a dynasty trade value chart. And what I did is I took all the players, their values, and I put them into a spreadsheet and I organized it by price. So I'm going to look down this. I'm going to compare the players as I go through it, just to see, where I value these players in terms of my trade chart. And it might help me actually move players around if I feel differently. But this one is a clear win for me. I have him $9 more than Le'Veon Bell, and that's Antonio Brown, who's still on the board. I don't care that he's 29 years old. He plays a lot like Jerry Rice did. And as you guys know, Jerry Rice had, I want to say 2,000 yard seasons at 40 years old. Just thinking about that is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Antonio Brown is a stud. We play for the next 3-4 years, and Antonio Brown's going to be an elite performer at one of the most important positions. So yeah, I'm going Antonio Brown.
I'm really not sure who I would take number 1. In my draft, it was DeAndre Hopkins. I don't have him number 1. I've got him maybe number 6. Number 1, it's either Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham for me.
Yeah, I have Beckham at number 1. The age does factor in there with Beckham because he's so much younger. I feel like you're a step under his production for Antonio Brown, but in the end, I believe just because he's younger, I have him actually $1 worth $1 whatever you want to do, 1 point more than Antonio Brown.
I think so too. I think I'd take Beckham. He's a little bit more injury prone, but even with the injury prone, he's going to play a lot more games for you as a dynasty player. So because of his age, so I'll take Beckham number 1, Brown number 2. I think I would go either Gurley or Le'Veon Bell number 3, which is great because Le'Veon Bell did drop to me at number 7. Pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's right around the area that I would take him, according to my list. He's right down at as my number 8 player overall. Like, I have Ezekiel Elliott a spot higher, which it might be weird, but I'm guessing someone fell to you in the second round that you wanted.
Oh, this is just wrong. This is a great start. I was really thinking, I don't especially like this pick here, pick number 18. I'm probably going to have to reach for Christian McCaffrey. He was actually taken. And when I saw that, I was like, oh crap, who am I going to get now? Well, Julio Jones fell to me.
Yeah, he was gone a long time ago. He went at 112 for me, so I don't get Julio.
Stuff like that happens in drafts, man. And that's why Draft Wizard is so great, is because you can prepare for this type of thing. Like, what happens if I do take a running back first? You know what I mean? No,
Julio has been dropping to the second round in some Dynasty startups. People have sent me their drafts that they've had in Dynasty. And when I see Julio in the second, I'm like, good for you. Like, seriously, like, I don't know why people continually count Julio Jones out, who, in my opinion, is still the best receiver in the game. Like, you could argue it's Antonio Brown, but, it's neck and neck with those two. They're both elite. So Julio Jones, I mean, Calvin Ridley, as much as Julio Jones helps Calvin Ridley see one-on-one coverage, Calvin Ridley is going to help Julio Jones as well. So yeah, don't sleep on Julio this year, guys.
All right. Who are you taking here in the second round?
Oh, this is really tough because, I'm not like a huge Christian McCaffrey guy, but being the fact that I did take a wide receiver in the first round, that really hurts. Joe Mixon is still there. So what I'm going to do here is look at the pick predictor because I'm debating Joe Mixon.
He's not going to be there for you.
I have Mixon one spot higher, but I kind of agree with you that I don't think he's going to be there either. Man, this is so tough because I love Mixon as a buy low. It says there's a 58% chance that he's going to be selected, which means it's less than 0.5% chance. I can make the pick and then go back and like revert pick. That's one of the options in the Draft Wizard, but I don't want to do that. Man, this is tough. And it is a PPR format. We should have probably mentioned that. So, you know what? I need a running back and I know that. And if there's a chance that I can get McCaffrey and Mixon, I might just do that. I have them one point apart, so it's not like it's a big gap. So I'm just going to take the chance. I'm going to take McCaffrey here because I need a running back. Yeah. And I'm hoping that Mixon falls to me the next round.
You made the right move. I think I like McCaffrey more. I would love to have both these guys in a dynasty league. I think both their stocks are going to blow up, especially Mixon. So hopefully you do get both of them. That way I have a little bit of a challenge here since I got such a hot start. And, I'm just messing with you, Tags. You usually beat me in these. So that's the cool thing too. By the way, if you haven't heard one of these Draft Wizard, mock draft episodes, it grades us at the end. So you can do it with us. Just go to, Draft Wizard, go to fantasypros.com, click Draft Wizard, set up the same, league settings as us. And then see how your score ranks up against us. Let us know on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro, at Mike Tagliere NFL how you did. Take a screenshot of your roster if you want and have some fun with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a whole lot of fun. And that's the thing. It's just like competing against each other. It's always fun. That's why we play fantasy football, right? Well, on top of, the monetary win. So as it turns out, Joe Mixon not only didn't last to my pick, he actually went the pick immediately after I took Christian McCaffrey. So you're right. He was gone, which really sucks because the best running back on my board right now is actually Sony Michel. And, Sony Michel is him and Jerick McKinnon are the two I'd be debating here, but I think Michel is the one I would go. But here's the thing. Michel, there's only a 20% chance that he's going to be picked. So that's a player that I feel confident is going to fall. I know that I'm much higher on Sony Michel than most of the industry is. And actually, we just released a piece. It was a featured pros article that went up on the site where we had a few experts chime in about who's being undervalued in dynasty formats. And I think Sony Michel is being extremely undervalued right now.
Agree.
But so that allows me to go to a different route because I can come back to Michel in the fourth round. So I'm going to take a wide receiver here. The next highest wide receiver on my board is Stephon Diggs. He's right up there in my value chart with Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. So I obviously value Stephon Diggs extremely high, and I know that, and I think that Kirk Cousins can help take him to that next level. He's just 24 years old. It's an easy dynasty pick for me. He's a wide receiver 2 behind Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I do like your fifth pick a little bit better because of this third round is so sloppy. And, obviously there's good players left, like better players that will be left in the fourth round. But in terms of the value, I feel like there's only one or two guys that I really like there. One of them is Diggs. He didn't last to me, so I'm not, too excited about my options here. I'm going to make my pick here in a second, but first I want to say thanks to the sponsor of today's show, pristineauction.com. And I was surfing through the hundreds of lots that they have every single day they end just to see if I could find myself a sweet value. I saw a Joe Montana frame jersey with hologram pictures on it. It was great. It made me think of our producer who's a big 49ers fan. And here's the thing about Pristine Auction. They have so many options. They've got something for everyone, including yourself, your father, your brother, anyone who loves sports, has a cave, wants to add something. Take a look at what they have. Lots of great gifts out there. And I'll bet you'll be thrilled to discover just how affordable it all is as well. It's easy to use. You only pay when you win. That's pristineauction.com. And Tags, do you want to tell the listeners about the giveaway we have going on right now?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do want to also mention that, I'm actually a shopper on Pristine Auction, and Father's Day is coming up. So I've already asked my wife if she could get me a Amari Cooper signed helmet. That'd be awesome. That's been on my list. I've actually lost a couple of bids, but you mentioned the 49ers. I actually have a Jerry Rice signed golden, 49ers helmet, actually from Pristine Auction, and go and check it out. It is awesome. So, but speaking of fantasy players and like the players we love, Todd Gurley, we are closing out entries on that. I believe we're announcing a winner on that early next week. So make sure you get your entries in for Todd Gurley. All you have to do is go to iTunes, review the podcast, subscribe if you haven't already, which I'm guessing you have, but leave a review on the podcast, take a screenshot on your phone of that or your computer, whatever you do. Send that in to contest@fantasypros.com and you will be automatically entered to win that signed, autographed, whatever you want to call it, Todd Gurley jersey. It's awesome. Check it out.
You said you get Todd Gurley, and I was going to tell the listeners, no, you don't actually get Todd Gurley. You don't get to kidnap him, keep him in your house.
He comes to your draft party. I'm going to guarantee that to the listeners. He's going to come to your draft party if you win.
Oh, that'd be so fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, if you do go shopping on pristineauction.com, get a Father's Day gift, let them know that Fantasy Pro sent you. Please do that, because that way we can keep doing these giveaways for you, like the Todd Gurley signed jersey.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you go on the site and you just register, and it's absolutely free. It's just asks you, how did you hear about us? And you tell them Fantasy Pros, and that's all we ask you guys to do.
All right. So here's my third pick. My top options here, according to ECR: Devontae Freeman, T.Y. Hilton, Adam Thielen, Jordan Howard, Zach Ertz, Gronk, Alshon, Juju, Sammy Watkins, Josh Gordon. I could reach for Aaron Rodgers, but there's so many good quarterbacks. Somebody's going to last. I don't love any of these options. I think I agree with ECR. I think Freeman's the best bet here, and it's hard to get good running backs later. I mean, we know what we're getting out of Freeman, right? He was running back number 1 in 2015, number 6 in 2016, 13 in 2017, only played 14 games. So this is an RB1. I think he's going to be an RB1 again this year. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. He's 26 years old, but you know what? Bell, Freeman, Jones, I can win the league this year. What I like to do is, with my first two picks, they orchestrate how the rest of my draft is going to go in a dynasty startup. If I draft guys who are going to help me a ton this year, then yeah, I'm going to go try to win it this year. We'll see what happens. I'm going to build the rest of my draft around that. If it's more upside guys, like if I get Saquon Barkley, who I think can help you this year as well, but it's more of a future pick, then I'll build the rest of my draft around that.
No, that's a really good strategy. And by the way, just to give you guys an idea of where Saquon Barkley is going in these startup drafts, he went at 1-8 in my draft. So, if you want him, you have to take him in the first round. That's basically what it comes down to. That's why I think that I love auction drafts. It gives you a chance at every player. Like you could land both Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to own two giants, but you could. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. You have to kind of see where your team is headed. And if you're taking guys at the top because you feel like there's so much value you can't pass up a young player, then build your team young and know that you're going to maybe take a year or two to compete. But if you take, if you're taking Julio Jones or Antonio Brown, you can build to win right now.
My next pick here in the fourth round, I've got pick number 6 in this round, and my top options: Rodgers, Wentz, Evan Ingram, Russell Wilson. This is where quarterbacks are going to start to go off the board. Or I could kind of reach for Golden Tate, Jerick McKinnon, who probably neither of them are going to be there next round. I'd love to get both these guys. I'm looking at my roster right now. I've got 2 running backs already. But again, I said these running backs are going to be harder to get that can help me win this year later in the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and reach and take Jerick McKinnon here. His ECR is 52. This is pick 42. So it's a bit of a reach, but I think he's an RB1 this year. And I think he's got a couple years ahead of him as well. So I'm going to pull the trigger, take McKinnon, cross my fingers that Golden Tate drops because I love Golden Tate.
So this is pretty important. It's something that I learned the more I get into stuff. So by the way, when you go on the Draft Wizard, if you scroll over a player's name, it's going to give you my paragraph of notes. I'm actually updating those this week through this weekend, where I'm going to have at least the top 100 players done. So you'll have a paragraph on every player and then maybe an interesting stat, something about their contract. Jerick McKinnon is one of those guys. So what I learned is actually, when they paid him $30 million this offseason, it was like, holy cow, that's a lot of money. You made him the 3rd highest paid running back in the league. What are you doing? I looked at it. They're paying him $12 million this year. If they cut him after this year, they only take a $1.5 million cap hit. So it's essentially a 1-year deal for them to see if McKinnon can hold up through first, second down and contribute in the passing game. I know there's a lot of people expecting him now. I think there was a beat reporter yesterday that came out and said that he's going to catch 70 passes this year. That's a lot. And I understand that people want to compare and be like, well, Carlos Hyde last year in the offense, Carlos Hyde caught a lot of his targets when it was CJ Beathard under center. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't target the running back position as much. Now, McKinnon, obviously you go out and acquire him for a reason, but that's something to keep in mind when you're talking about McKinnon in a dynasty format, because if for whatever reason he only lasts 1 year in San Francisco, his value might be in that Gio Bernard territory where it's like, he gets a third down role somewhere, which is scary, but there is upside. For this year, I want as much Jerick McKinnon as possible in redraft. Like, he's going to have plenty of value. And actually, that's where I got in my draft, is that Rodgers is still on the board. McKinnon's there, as is Sony Michel, and I like Sony Michel more, so I'll be honest about that. But Rodgers, looking at my value chart, I have Rodgers at 42, and then I have Sony Michel at 40. So I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers here. I don't ever take quarterbacks early, but seeing him fall to that late 4th round, I think we're past the sure things. I think we're past those guys. So to know that I can lock up my franchise quarterback for the next, 6, 7, 8 years, Aaron Rodgers he's just the man.
That makes sense to me, man. I've said it last year in prep for the preseason, everyone's drafts, and I'm going to say it again this year. I'm going to remind everybody. Every time Aaron Rodgers has been healthy, he has been a top 12 VBD player. In fact, almost every year except for one, he was a top 5 VBD player. He's been a top number 1 VBD player. That's value-based drafting, so value above replacement, above the number 12 quarterback. He was number 1 3 times in the past 10 years. Nobody else has even done it twice. So Aaron Rodgers is a big deal. If he's healthy, you win your league.
Yeah, no, Aaron Rodgers is so good. And that's the thing, is quarterback's so deep now, it's hard for me to take a quarterback, but when he falls there, like in redraft, I'll consider Rodgers at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th. But in Dynasty here, it does put you behind the 8 ball a little bit, but I feel like the beginning of my draft was good enough where it's like I have Aaron Rodgers, I have McCaffrey at running back, who's a top 12 PPR running back, and I have Antonio Brown and Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. So I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Plus, if you get one of these running backs, like Jerick McKinnon, you mentioned it, could just be 1 year. Le'Veon Bell, who knows what's going to happen? It could be 2 years where he's very good, then he just completely drops off a cliff. Wide receivers have a little bit longer of a shelf life, but quarterbacks, you know what you're going to get. Someone like Aaron Rodgers is going to play for another 5, 6 years and be awesome.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing, is just like and that's when I say we're past the sure things. Like, that's how I feel. Like, you're not getting a stud that's a sure thing here. Like, you could take players with upside for sure. Like, Sony Michel is one of those players where it's like, I know he's not a sure thing, but I love the talent. I love the landing spot. There's not much to dislike about him. And, so I get to my pick here in the 5th round. And even though the ECR right now is saying Jerick McKinnon is 6 spots higher, Sony Michel is higher on my board. So I'm going to go.
He's still there?
Oh, well, yeah, Jerick McKinnon's still there. It said that now it says there's a 79% chance he'll be taken, but I'm going with my draft board. I'm not going to go with the consensus. Like, in the end, you have to be happy with your team. So I'm going to take Sony Michel here and fill my RB2 slot. Golden
Tate was taking the pick before me, man. But I can't be sad because Aaron Rodgers is still there. What do you think about that, Tex?
Of course, the one value I get in this draft that he falls so far, and
Oh man, I love it. That makes me so happy.
I want to know who you're drafting against.
This has never happened to me. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
It's not great on my part. I have a feeling this one's going to go negatively.
Yeah. My next pick here. I'm in the 6th round. Man, this is ugly. Mark Ingram, Devin Funchess, Devontae Parker, Jay Ajayi, Tevin Coleman. I mean, you see how early these running backs disappeared. I'm glad I got 3 now because it is ugly all of a sudden. I'm going to take myself a wide receiver. Tags, you've really talked me into Devontae Parker. They have nobody else. Tannehill's back. Tannehill likes Devontae Parker. Still just 25 years old. All that athletic ability. So let's see what happens. Devontae Parker here.
I dig it, and that's actually who's on my board right now. And so many people are down on Devontae Parker, and I understand, like, you're not happy with him anymore, but, like, if we went back to this time last year, you would have still considered him a top 24 Dynasty wide receiver. Like, that's where the mindset was at. And going through his numbers, like, again, I scroll over his name, and you can see exactly how I feel about him. There's been 25 games in his career where he has seen at least 5 targets. In those games, he's averaged 68.2 yards and a touchdown every 3 games. Those are low-end wide receiver 2 numbers. Keep in mind, he did that with Jarvis Landry on the team. By the way, Jarvis Landry is now a Cleveland Brown. Those 140 plus targets per year. I'm sorry, I'm not buying Danny Amendola getting 100 and something targets. I'm just not going to buy it. Like, if I'm wrong on this, that's fine. But Devontae Parker is a talented wide receiver. Health has been the issue. I'm taking Devontae Parker myself as well.
Evan Silva tweeted out earlier today that Danny Amendola has now been in the league 10 years. He's never had a season with 700 receiving yards.
Yeah, he's had issues staying healthy when he's actually been utilized in an offense.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a very small guy, and those guys just don't hold up in the NFL, so you don't want to say that about anybody, but he's injury prone. He's had a lot of concussions. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, well, I'm upset because the only other player I was considering that I figured would fall was Ronald Jones, running back for Tampa Bay, the rookie running back, and I felt like he would fall, which would have been an ideal flex. He did not. He was taken. The guy who's picking after me, I want to punch in the face because he keeps taking my guys. He picked him right after me, and it said that there was like a 10% chance that he was taken. So I feel slighted.
It's probably you, man. You know, Draft Wizard uses our expert rankings, and your rankings are in there, so you're probably picking right in front of you every time and taking your guys.
Yeah, pretty much. That might be what's happening. But this is the point in the draft where I get really weird about, because like LaShawn McCoy is still there. And so many people would be like, why wouldn't you take LaShawn McCoy here? Well, I have a lot of issues with LaShawn McCoy this year. And, it's like the trifecta, right? Running backs, once they get past the age of like 28, they trend downhill like rapidly, right? Like everybody wanted to believe that Adrian Peterson was an exception to this rule. DeMarco Murray, these running backs, not only that, but now they lost 3 starting offensive linemen this offseason. They didn't really replace them in the draft. They were good offensive linemen too, like Eric Wood, Richie Incognito, and Cordy Glenn. They were good offensive linemen. Their quarterback situation was downgraded from Ty God to, it seems like they're going to go AJ McCarron to start the year. I don't know. But so this offense isn't going to score very much. We're in a dynasty, so LaShawn McCoy is probably only a year or two away from insignificance. So it's like, I can't take LaShawn McCoy even though it's recommending that I do. I can't take him here, man. I refuse to do that. And I have equal concerns about Kenyon Drake, who is still on the board there too. So it's just like, looking at these positions, I'm seriously just let down that these are my choices. So I am going to go what I believe is the safer route, and I'm going to go with my guy, Jamison Crowder, who I've been saying that you should buy all off season. So I'm going to live by my word here. It's a PPR. Getting him as looks like the 33rd wide receiver off the board. I'm okay with that.
I thought about taking him in the 6th round, even over Devontae Parker, because it was a 50-50 chance he'd drop. He didn't drop to me. I'm okay with that. I mean, there's still other guys I like. I would have liked Mike Williams as well. It would have been a hard decision between him, Josh Doxson, who's there, Chris Godwin. I think I can get Doxson and Godwin. And you know, the thing is, I've got 3 running backs already. Bell, Freeman, McKinnon. I wouldn't mind getting a 4th. Even if this wasn't a double flex league, running backs get hurt so much that I like to have a lot of depth there, and not just like depth, like 8 running backs, but like good depth. So I have a reliable, 15 touch guy if my players go out, and I have the double flex, so I can definitely do it. Kenyon Drake is there. He's really the last guy on my board that I think can be that guy. Now, Pick Predictor is telling me there's a pretty good chance he's still going to be there next round for me. And I'm going to trust Pick Predictor. Josh Doxson's probably going to be gone. It says Godwin might be there. So I'll get one of Drake and Godwin. I'm going to get Doxson. And by the way, if you want to use Pick Predictor, if you want to use Dynasty and all this stuff on Draft Wizard, do unlimited drafts, you can do a premium upgrade, and we have a really cool way to do that. It's actually going to cost you $10 to do it for 6 months. And the way that you do that is if you're a new user to draft.com, it's a partnership that we have with them. And it's my favorite DFS site to use because you can do these best ball drafts. They do the best ball drafts as far as I'm concerned. It's really slick. It's easy to use. They've got a great app and everything. And you can do week-long competitions where you do a snake draft every single day, or in baseball, or every single week in football to draft your players. And if you deposit $10 into that as a new user, we'll give you a 6-month premium upgrade to Fantasy Pros highest tier. Again, that's just $10. Go to fantasypros.com/offer and you can use that, take advantage of all of Draft Wizard's tools, everything on our website, all the sports, going to carry you right into fantasy football season.
Yeah, no, and I just want to chime in on the whole draft thing. I used to take part in best ball like leagues in other places, and when we sponsored with Draft, I went and tried them, and I fell in love. Like, their mobile app is awesome, but the reason that I love the company is their customer service has been awesome. And the reason I say that,
best.
I've done so many best best ball leagues already. I think I've drafted, I'm not kidding when I say like 25 leagues already. And I had Hunter Henry in a lot of those leagues. So Hunter Henry, if you guys haven't heard, he tore his ACL. It's such bad news. We probably should have talked about it at the beginning of the show, but he tore his ACL. He's out for the season. It's a really heartbreaking thing. I had Hunter Henry on over 25% of those teams. So what did they do? Draft came out, and I know they did something similar last year where they said, if you have Hunter Henry on your team, we're going to give you a free ticket into a different contest. And I got those tickets, so I was able to go enter some free best ball leagues, and I still have a chance to win those other ones that I have Hunter Henry in. It's not like you need injuries happen. You know, that happens in fantasy football, but the fact that Draft was willing to do that, that's props. Like, seriously, give them a chance, and if you deposit that $10, you're going to be able to play with that $10, get the free upgrade, and all is well, and you get to try some best ball. It's a whole lot of fun.
That's right. Again, it's fantasypros.com/offer. That way you can redeem it. $10, $65 value. You can win money with the $10. Makes a lot of sense. Godwin went. Kenyon Drake is still there though. I was right about that. I've only got 3 wide receivers though. I'm going to have to, get a few high upside guys here. Hopefully I can hit the lottery with 1 out of 3 here. But Kenyon Drake, 4th running back for me. That's who I'm taking. Glad he's there.
Yeah, no, Kenyon Drake's on my list as well. So to see him, it looks like in my draft there's been like 28 running backs come off the board. And as much as I'm not a fan of Drake's situation, like he is young, he's 24 years old, but signing Frank Gore was questionable at best. I really kind of wish that Frank Gore would just retire and say, you know what, they have Drake, they drafted Kalen Ballage, they're kind of set. The team's offense we know is not going to be great. I mean, it's rare for a bottom 10 scoring offense, which I project Miami to be, to produce a top 12 running back. So you don't address Kenyon Drake like a top 12 running back, but getting him as like a flex player, and he's my second flex, I'm more than okay with that. So, to see him fall to this range, this is where I'm okay with it. Now it's come around to the 9th round where I'll make another pick. So my running backs now, it's kind of worrisome to me, like Sony Michel, Christian McCaffrey, and Kenyon Drake. I don't feel like I have any studs, so I feel like I'm going to need to load some depth at the position. Whereas at wide receiver, I have Antonio Brown, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Parker, and Jamison Crowder. I feel like I need some depth. I do need a tight end still, but I feel like I've missed the boat on the top tier ones, so I'm going to address that in a little bit. I want to grab another running back while I still have a chance. Deion Lewis is still on the board. This is a PPR format, so Deion Lewis is going to have extremely high value. And you know what I was thinking about, Bobby? We haven't talked about it, but everybody talks about, and myself included, we all are like, well, Deion Lewis is going to walk into that, that DeMarco Murray role, and Derrick Henry is going to be the same running back he was last year. But we all seem to forget that this is a brand new offense. Like, it's brand new. Matt LaFleur has come over from under Sean McVay, comes over to the Tennessee organization with Mike Vrabel, who knows nothing about offense. So it's essentially Matt LaFleur's job, right? It's his job. And he comes from under Sean McVay, who we obviously saw what he did last year. He wanted one running back. And they made the hire of LaFleur before they signed Deion Lewis in free agency to a $20 million contract. I think they have a clear vision here. And the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of like, maybe they just view Derrick Henry like just like a 2-down back that really should get goal line carries, that can break a long one every now and then, and that Deion Lewis is the guy that they want. So the more I think about this, the more I'm kind of becoming fond of Deion Lewis. He's got limited tread on his tires at 27 years old, but yeah, to have on my bench, I'm good with that.
That's a good pick, man. It's a really good pick. I don't need a running back, but I'm looking at the running backs left, and there's some good ones. Lamar Miller, if he plays, he's not great, but you can use him virtually every single week. PPR, Duke Johnson, I don't know what's going to happen since they've got like 80 guys in their backfield now. Alex Collins is a surefire starter. I know Kenneth Dixon's coming there, so I don't like him quite as much. Aaron Jones has as much upside as anybody I'm about to mention, because if he gets to be the starter with Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about an RB1 every single week, in my opinion. So, because I've already got the 4 running backs, I think that one makes a lot of sense, since I don't have to play him every week and maybe I strike gold. Deion Lewis is there. Tariq Cohen's there, and you know how much I love him. He might be there next round. And then Royce Freeman. I wouldn't mind taking one of these guys, especially since top wide receivers, Benjamin, Robbie Anderson, Kenny Golladay. I'm not interested. I'd love to get Anthony Miller next round. I'm not going to reach for him. Marquise Goodwin next round. I need a tight end too, but I'm not going to reach for George Kittle, who's going to be there next round or even the round after that for me. So I'm going to take a running back here, and I'm going to go with Aaron Jones.
That's a good pick. He's off the board for me. Royce Freeman also came off the board before I picked Dion Lewis, and I would have went Royce Freeman. But yeah, I definitely like the pick. Can't fault you for going that way, because Aaron Jones, he's picking up more steam as the offseason goes on, and he's starting to go ahead of Jamal Williams in a lot of drafts. And whether that be right or wrong, I don't know. But at this point in the draft, when you're talking about those bench guys, if you could land both Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, if one of them emerges, like, you have yourself an RB1.
And maybe they'll split carries, and maybe it's a bust, but you know what? It's 9th round. I'm taking a shot.
Yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying. I understand that pick, and I have that's an upside pick for a running back on your bench. Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, 10th round here, and this is a little bit scary. Jack Doyle went off the board. Jordan Reed went off the board. Delaney Walker went off the board. So here's what I've got to do. I've either got George Kittle, and it's kind of a reach, Eric Ebron, Mike Gesicki. Who knows what he's going to do as a rookie? And I'm trying to win this year, remember? Tyler Eifert, Austin Hooper. No, I'm taking George Kittle right now. I do not feel bad about it.
Let me just say that George Kittle, I just went down because I was like, I swear he went in mine a while ago. What round are you in right now? I
am in round 10.
Yeah, he went at 7-8 in mine.
Ooh, wow, that makes me feel a lot better. It also, hurts a little bit. I'm looking at my roster. I've got 6 guys on week 11 bye, so I guess I'm forfeiting that game.
Yeah, just don't pay attention. Honestly, being legit, real about this, if all your bye weeks come in 1 week, consider yourself
That's
lucky.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the only time that you should ever pay attention to bye weeks is when you're doing best ball leagues, because if you draft 2 quarterbacks, you can't draft 2 quarterbacks with the same bye, because it's really going to crush you for that week and it's going to drop you in the standings.
Yeah.
You have to have someone at that position. So, pay attention to that, to the defenses that you draft if you play in drafts with defenses, things like that. That's the only time that I'll pay attention to bye weeks. But going on to my pick, I'm really torn, and I've been sitting here thinking about it while you were going, because so Anthony Miller's there. I love Anthony Miller. Kerryon Johnson is available for me. I just drafted Dion Lewis for a bench running back. I don't have a tight end yet, and Greg Olsen is still there. Greg Olsen, yeah, he's 33 years old. I know he just signed a 2-year contract extension. I think that 2 years is probably what you're going to get out of him. And honestly, from tight end standpoint, those rankings change behind the elite guys. Those rankings change all the time, so you're never getting a sure thing. So taking Olsen here kind of makes sense for me. I feel like my team is built to win now, and it can win now. So I'm going to take Olsen here and just solidify my tight end position.
I mean, if you're in a league with me, you're not going to win now, because my team is very good for this year. So let's make a trade. I'll give you George Kittle. You give me Greg Olsen. We'll both be happy.
Oh, that's tough. I mean, I got to check this. I still have Greg Olsen, 2 points higher in my dynasty than I do Kittle. But it's close though. If you're building for the future, I completely understand why you would take Kittle over Greg Olsen.
Yeah. I think it makes sense too. I think Olsen, I'm quite a bit above George Kittle for dynasty. It might only be 1 or 2 years, but it is a big difference. I mean, there's a chance he's a top 3 tight end this year. Top 3 is kind of pushing it, but there's a chance.
Top 3, that's a stretch, because you have to get past Gronk, Kelsey, and Ertz.
Well, one of them's going to get hurt. It just happens.
I love Bobby, just the injury predictor. I'm going to have a podcast with you just talking about injuries where you can help me out. But seriously, this is where in the draft it gets really tough, because, I filled a lot of my positions. CJ Anderson is there. He's 27. He was just signed to a 1-year contract. And while I do think he's going to produce this year, I don't know if CJ Anderson gets another contract. If you've been paying attention, he was on the market for a long time, and people waited till after the draft, and it was even 2 weeks after the draft for him to get signed by a team. So this could very well be his last year playing, which really sucks. And I can't take that chance with a dynasty roster. I need a bigger discount on him, even though he would be like the 40th running back off the board. So I'm going to go with Chris Hogan here. At least he provides me some upside on my bench right now. I mean, being part of a high scoring offense is never a bad thing. And if Julian Edelman, who by the way is 32 years old now, comes back and isn't maybe he's not the same player. Maybe Chris Hogan leads this team in receiving outside of Robert Gronkowski, of course. So
you're right.
Hogan should give me some big weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a solid pick, especially if you need a wide receiver. He's not there for me. Otherwise, I'd think about taking him. I probably want it because there's 2 guys I like on the board a little bit more. Tags, I'm looking at the running backs. I know I've got 5 of them. This is kind of overkill, but the running backs are horrible except one guy left that I like a lot. And I've already got Aaron Jones. I actually think that Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery are above Jamal Williams. I don't know, maybe they give the crack to Jamal Williams, but I don't think it lasts. I think one of these two guys is going to be the top dog. And in PPR, Ty Montgomery could be a monster. He was the starting running back last year for a reason, and he was a lot better than Jamal Williams. So I'm going to take a crack at him. And, I know I could use another wide receiver. Anthony Miller and Pierre Garçon are still there. Hopefully one of them lasts to me and I'll be happy. Otherwise I made a stupid decision, but I'm grabbing Ty Montgomery here trying to hit gold.
I'm guessing they're not going to fall to you. Miller went at 11-4 in mine. He went before Hogan. Otherwise, I would have taken Miller over Hogan. But then again, you've had everybody falling to you. You've had everyone falling to you in this draft, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Oh, well, you know what? Anthony Miller fell to me. I'll take him.
Oh, God. Are you serious?
Pierre Garçon almost fell to me, too. He was one pick away. I mean, Pick Predictor said it was a 45% chance he was taken. So it was a better than average chance.
Well, Miller was the pick. You were fortunate. I would take Miller over Pierre Garçon every single day of the week.
Me too.
At this stage in their career, yeah.
And actually not even close for me.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, think about it this way. Would you trade Pierre Garçon for an early second round pick in a Dynasty rookie draft? Yes, I would.
I don't know. PPR, man. Actually, I don't know. PPR. Trying to win now.
There's just so many players. Like, there's no stud in San Francisco, but there's just so many players when it comes like I think Marquise Goodwin is one of the hardest players to predict this season because you saw him dominate the target share last year when Jimmy Garoppolo took over, but Pierre Garçon wasn't on the field. They also didn't trade up to draft Dante Pettis for nothing. They also didn't go out and get Jerick McKinnon to not participate in the passing game. So I just think that there's a lot of pieces in that offense. There's no alpha dog. So I don't think that Pierre Garçon is getting, the 130 targets or whatever he was supposed to get last year. That's where I stand right now. And I could be wrong on that, but I don't know.
I think that's fair, man. Okay. So, let's see. It is your turn for 12th and 13th round. And then I've got two more picks.
All right. So I'm not a big fan of what's going on the board in front of me right now. Mike Gesicki is there, and I know I already have a tight end in Greg Olsen, but that's my 2-year plan, whereas Mike Gesicki could develop into a rock star. Some people have Gesicki as a top 10 tight end in Dynasty already because they feel like his ceiling is so high. So to have him on my bench wouldn't be a bad thing because the running backs have dried up. I mean, Kalen Ballage is probably the best running back on the board, and I'm not really excited about that. As for wide receivers, I'd be looking at John Ross. And I feel like I can get him later. So I am going to take Mike Gesicki here because I just feel like I have a plan in place for my Dynasty squad is that Greg Olsen's going to play. Mike Gesicki is going to end up taking that spot.
We are thinking the same exact thing here because I was thinking, I guess I'm going to take John Ross. And then I looked at tight end and I was like, oh, but Mike Gesicki's still there. Yeah. And nobody else is even draftable. I like George Kittle. I don't exactly trust him to be a monster. I think there's a chance. So I'm going to take Gesicki. I think one of these two turns out for me this year. Maybe they both turn out in the future, but, now I've got myself two quality young tight ends and hopefully John Ross is their next round. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's basically what I'm going to do. So I had the 13th round pick and then, so that's John Ross was still on the board, obviously. So I'm just going to take John Ross there. I feel like the upside is just plenty to have on my bench. Don't forget about John Ross, guys.
Okay, I'm taking John Ross here in the 14th, and this is my last pick. Totally agree that you cannot sleep on John Ross. I mean, there's a reason he was a top 10 pick. That's a big deal for a wide receiver.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, and if Marvin Jones doesn't figure out a way to get something out of that pick, he's fired. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if I'm the GM, I'm like, I drafted this guy for a weapon in the offense. Use him, please.
Hey, Tags, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm looking at my draft grade. You've actually got a chance to beat me here. I love my roster, but based on my draft grade, you've got a chance, so you better make this pick a good one.
Well, it's kind of tough with what I'm looking at in front of me. There's not much left on here, and I'm not going to take a backup quarterback. I have Aaron Rodgers. We purposely didn't make this like a crazy deep bench. But by the way, if you are doing a startup dynasty, you should have at least 28 man rosters. We just can't do a podcast to highlight all that stuff. So ideally, there's not much on the waiver wire for you to even pick up if you wanted to. That's ideally where you should be. So with my pick here, my last bench spot, I'm going to grab another wide receiver just because it never hurts to be deep at that position. Cameron Meredith, signed by the Saints. He lasted until that 14th round, so I can't be mad about him there.
Yeah, I thought about him as well. So, Tags, why don't you give me your grade first?
So my grade is an A-. I got a 91 out of 100.
Sweet.
What, did you beat me?
Yeah, I got a 94. I really thought that it was going to be super close because your team's really good too. I just had more guys drop to me.
When I first started playing fantasy, someone very smart, I don't remember who it was, but they told me, they're like, get as many elite players as possible. Everything else you'll be able to fill the parts in. And I have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Obviously, he's elite. I have McCaffrey and Sony Michel at running back. my two starting running back spots, which, I mean, some people consider McCaffrey a stud. I think he's fine. I have Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the game, for fantasy wise, as my wide receiver 1, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Parker. I know that that's up in the air. Greg Olsen at tight end, another one of the elite players, even though he's only got a couple years left. Jamison Crowder, Kenyon Drake at flex, and my bench consists of Deion Lewis, Chris Hogan, Mike Gesicki, John Ross, and Cameron Meredith. So I just feel like I have enough upside. I have upside on my bench, and I feel like I have a few studs on my team.
Your wide receivers are a lot better than mine. My running backs are a lot better than yours. Your tight end's also better. I like my flex players better. I like my bench a little better.
Who do you got?
Not because you made, worse decisions, just because guys dropped to me, like Anthony Miller, yeah. John Ross. You would have made those picks. But here's my roster. Got Aaron Rodgers, just like you. Le'Veon Bell and Devontae Freeman at running back. My flexes are Jerick McKinnon and Kenyon Drake for running back. My backup running backs, Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery. And then my wide receivers, this is a little bit ugly. Julio Jones, that's great. Devontae Parker, Josh Doxson. And then I've got Anthony Miller and John Ross. So that is really sketchy. With that being said, I draft in Dynasty startup leagues. I draft the best player available no matter what. You can always make trades. I got depth galore at running back. I don't have it at wide receiver. You know what? People are going to come crawling to me when their running backs get hurt. So I'm fine with that. I'll pick up a wide receiver mid-season.
No, Bobby, you're right on with that assessment too, by the way. And I play in a lot of Dynasty leagues, and I will tell you this right now. People are paying a lot of money for running backs. Like they are willing to pay a lot of equity for running backs, but wide receiver is a bit tougher. I was trying to move some wide receivers on my team in the draft last night, and people weren't that interested. People ask me about my running backs nonstop. Like they want to know, what they can do to acquire a running back, because running back, it's kind of like the flavor of the month, right? Like running backs had such a big year last year, and wide receivers were so down. It's kind of like flip-flopped. I don't go too far in that direction. I do believe that you should have some running backs that are guaranteed, that 15 plus touches per game. But yeah, I wouldn't go all out just to make sure you have all running backs. But if you're one of those players that trades, running backs are the flavor of the month. So if you're doing a startup, like people will trade for running backs.
Tags, I had that good draft, and I'm not even projected to be first in my league. In fact, it's not even close. There's one team that is way ahead of me. And I'm looking at their roster right now. It is a lot better than mine. I don't know how this happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah, in mine, actually, it's showing that I'm in second place as well. So I'm kind of curious to see what this guy's team is.
Yeah, so he's got Todd Gurley. Okay, he's got Dalvin Cook. So those are his running backs. He drafted him the 3rd overall, and then let's see here, 22nd overall, Dalvin Cook fell. He's got Stephon Diggs. He's got Travis Kelce as his tight end. Okay, I can't believe Travis Kelce fell to the 4th, by the way, 410. He's got Carson Wentz as his quarterback, and then he goes Nick Chubb, Jamison Crowder, and then after that, it's just a lot of reliable pieces towards the end. I like the high upside guys, so I don't exactly agree about that. But his starting lineup, man, that blows mine out of the water. That is awesome.
Yeah, there's one guy in my draft that got a higher grade than me as well. He has Deshaun Watson at quarterback. His running backs are Kareem Hunt and LaShawn McCoy. Wide receivers, Michael Thomas, Golden Tate, and Emmanuel Sanders, who I'm kind of down on Sanders. But he has Travis Kelce at tight end, and then his two flexes are Zach Ertz and Tevin Coleman. So he went like a 2 tight end approach, which worked according to the analysis that comes after the draft. So yeah, go check it out. And honestly, like, you have to be comfortable with your dynasty squad, but it never hurts to have someone else's opinion take a look at it. So go get graded. Let us know what your score is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro, at Mike Tagliere NFL. Tags, this was a lot of fun, man.
I always have fun, man. Like, the more podcasts you and I start doing together, like, now to have you back on your food takes are awful. But it provides comedy for me, and it makes these podcasts like more, it's got some entertainment. It's also got some football. So hopefully, the listeners, are appreciating that, because I'm definitely having a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, like, we're not talking politics and stuff. Nobody cares what we think. And I see people saying, I'm so glad you guys don't talk about that stuff. But every time we talk about food, the reception is always great. So I'm sorry I can't help myself sometimes. I just need the world to know that you can put butter on pizza and it tastes even better.
No, it can't. I haven't tried it, but it can't.
But he's going to. Thanks again to the sponsor of today's show, pristineauction.com. That's PRISTINE And again, they're giving away a Todd Gurley signed jersey. Get your entries in because we're going to pick someone out this weekend and announce it next week. Just rate and review our podcast, Fantasy Pros Football Podcast on iTunes. Take a screenshot, send it to us at contest@fantasypros.com. And draft.com. Remember, if you deposit $10, you can get a $60 value. It's a 6-month free upgrade to our highest premium package by going to fantasypros.com/offer. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.